Okay, let's call the Village of Holly Council meeting for July, get the right dates here, August 13th, 2024 to order. Stand for the pledge, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Harrington, Perkins.
Here.
Musgrave.
Here.
Brandon. Kinnaman.
Here.
Kyer. Here. Delaney.
Okay, I have notes to excuse Delaney, Harrington, and Gildner, and then Brandon said that she would come later to the meeting.
I'll make the motion that we excuse them.
Support.
Motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Consent agenda. All items listed under consent agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the Village Council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and discussed separately immediately after consent agenda approval in its normal sequence on the regular agenda.
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Brandon. Kinnaman.
Yes.
Kyer.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Motion carries. Presentation by Mr. Colbeck. Is he here yet?
So Mr.
Yep.
Colbeck
Right there.
is not here at this time. I would suggest maybe passing on that item and then coming back to it.
Thank you. We will move on to public comment then. Members of the public can address council once recognized by the chairperson. Comments are limited to a maximum of 4 minutes for items not on the agenda. Council may extend this time by an additional 4 minutes by a majority vote. For items on the agenda, comments may be made after council discussion prior to a council vote. Prior to addressing council, members of the public shall state their name and address for the record. The items that are on the agenda that will be discussed during agenda items are consideration of approval of council action request to engage the MML in the village manager search, consideration of the approval of action request to hire SME and Rowe Professional Services to prepare construction documents for the Mill Pond Dam, and number 3, consideration of the approval of council action request to accept the use of the DDA grant to plant trees in Ganshaw Park. Those 3 items will be discussed during the items. Anything else for public comment? You guys are making this far too easy. I see no one for public comment. We have no old business. We will move on to new business item number 1, consideration of the approval of council action request to engage the MML in the manager search.
Yes, thank you, Councilor Kinnaman and Council. At the July 16th Personnel Committee meeting, the topic was discussed, it was July 30th. The topic was discussed of the search for the next village manager upon my retirement in December. There was discussion of different avenues to take to conduct that search. And one avenue that was discussed in great length was that of using the MML in their executive search. And so that was the recommendation of the Personnel Committee to recommend that to council for my position. And then council then can have additional conversation of what type of search to use for the clerk treasurer's position. which is also expiring her contract at the end of the year. With us tonight, we have Mr. Jeff Mueller of the MML. Mr. Mueller is highly credentialed and qualified. In fact, he's a former city manager for a couple of different communities, and he has conducted many of these searches for the MML. I provided you with a proposal from the MML that I emailed to you previously, and I provided hard copy to you tonight. And if council would like, I think Mr. Mueller is prepared to present an overview of the executive search program.
That would be great. Mr. Mueller?
Good evening. It's great to be here. Jeff Mueller with the Michigan Municipal League. I can explain my gray hair with 45 years of local government experience. We're really pleased that you're taking a look at us to do the search for Jerry's replacement. If I could take a couple minutes, just kind of go over the process with you and how we conduct this. I understand you have a personnel committee that's going to be looking at it. The first thing we kind of do is meet with I'll meet with the staff and kind of find out what's great, what could use some work, where some things that are going very well or might be some shortcomings, some of the projects they do, some of the things they're involved with, how large the community is, the water and sewer system, public works, et cetera, police department, staffing levels and things. And then I would like to meet with the council and or the personnel committee. Really, that'll be your decision what you want to do with that. Need about a 2-hour time frame at some point in time here, just to get a feel for, do you want another Jerry? What direction do you want to go in? What's really been working well? And just kind of do it like a brainstorming session. And out of that then comes, we'll put together a brochure that we do quite an extensive outreach, actually nationally, for the next manager. And we'll do kind of a draft that before we actually advertise. It'll probably go back to the personnel committee or whatever you would like to see happen. We advertise, it's out for 4 weeks, and then all of the resumes, cover letters, and all that will actually come back to me. It protects you. I'll review them all based on what you're really looking for, and you'll actually get a matrix with all the candidates with no names on it. So that way it protects you from any kind of saying, that person we like or not, based on what they look like or who they are. And then from that, I will give the committee and or the council a full kind of review of all those top people, all their background. We actually do social media review to make sure there's no surprises for you. You don't want to find out that someone was an axe murderer from Bad Axe, later on when you're ready to hire them. Then you can determine who you'd like to interview. We actually then will put together a series of questions that for your review, staying within the legal boundaries of what you can and cannot ask. But if you have some other ideas about questions, we certainly could be able to add them at that time. And then we would set up the interviews with whoever we would like to interview. We would attend that. And hopefully the cream will rise to the top and there will be someone you just absolutely love. And we actually then would help with any kind of negotiations regarding a contract too. I'm not sure if the city attorney would be doing it or the council president or whatnot, or a combination of both, but certainly we would be there to help. So that's kind of the process. I don't know if you have any other questions. I'd be happy to answer them.
Perhaps, Jeff, for the council's benefit, for those who were not in the personnel committee and for those in the audience, if you could just talk a little bit about the different levels of the search. The basic, the typical, and the advanced. Yeah,
there's a basic search that we do. A lot of times, some of the very, very small communities, I don't really like doing it because I want to get the input from the council, but you don't meet with staff, and it's a very abbreviated kind of get information from the governing body. And they're also with that search, we offer with a typical search, which is in the packet. For some reason, if the person comes here and decides to leave in a short amount of time, the league does a guarantee where we'll come back and help you again, and there's no additional charge for that. We hope not. We like to, ICMA has a code of ethics that says you got to stay at least 2 years in a community, and we really push that. And as I'm discussing with the candidates that have applied, say you know that, and don't, head for greener pastures here after 5 months. So the typical search that we have, though, it is meeting with the staff and getting their input and the council. They also, I think there's some add-ons that were in there too regarding community outreach and things, but it sounded like the personnel committee liked the typical search, so.
Anybody really have questions?
No?
Pretty self-explanatory.
I like the idea of reaching out nationwide. It really gives you a good broad.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I would say, in addition to Mr. Mueller's presentation, again, just for the benefit of those that were not in that meeting or do not have all the documentation, the cost of the basic search was $15,500. The cost of the typical search is $18,500, and the cost of the enhanced search is $21,000. And again, I mean, there are members of the personnel committee, well, actually just one right now, there'll be two in just a minute, who had a little more in-depth discussion about which search they were leaning towards recommending, but it was my understanding that the search was for the typical, is the one that they were recommending. You can expound more on it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The only thing that really differentiates the typical from the enhanced was the lead coming basically and creating sort of more public like outreach where we could have a meeting, and we thought we could probably do that on our own, facilitate that. So that was really the only difference between the typical and the enhanced. So that's why we went more with the typical, and typical has a little bit more background and more steps that they take to kind of weed out people that might not necessarily be qualified. There's no reason for us to even look at that, right?
Sure. So when you talk about the idea of the, you're almost talking about almost like a town hall or a
Right.
survey or
Just
a
where the general
combination?
public can come and maybe ask questions of these people, like let's say we get it down to 3, and then,
And then hold more of a public
Exactly.
forum opportunity.
right, versus where, just in the personnel committee where we kind of set a standard where we don't necessarily have the public
Sure,
speak at those
sure.
meetings. Give them an opportunity to kind of weigh in.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Works for me.
Do we have,
I'll make the motion that we enlist the MML to assist in conducting the search for the next village manager, using the number 2 typical service or level of service at $18,500, not to exceed that.
I'll second.
motion and second? Roll call?
Kinnaman,
Yes.
Tyre,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Musgrave,
Yes.
Brandon.
Yes.
And I'd also like you to note in the minutes that Ms. Brandon has joined the meeting. Great. Welcome.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councilor Kinnaman, if I could ask just for future planning, for the position of clerk treasurer,
Yes.
does the council wish to refer that back to the personnel committee? Or does the council want to have that on a future agenda to establish the exact route that they're going to take with that?
Future agenda.
I'm hearing a future agenda recommendation to,
We had asked during the personnel committee, because we were wondering, since there are 2 positions, like, do we get kind of a little discount, like a 2-for-1 kind of thing, or are we gonna get billed twice? And yeah, essentially, that's what we're finding out, is that
Sure.
we'll have to pay for that one as well.
It did seem to be the consensus of personnel without an official motion laid on it, that they wouldn't be approving spending an additional $18,000 to look for the
That's
position of
correct,
clerk.
yes.
Or even the 15,000.
Or the
At
15,
the lower
yes.
level, yeah, yeah. And is it not common sometimes to do, it's a little difficult that both are retiring at the same time virtually, but that your village manager is involved in that search process for a clerk? So I didn't know if we wanted to look at that option as well, that spot is maybe interim'd until we have a village manager in place, and then they participate in that search.
We did discuss that at the
Yeah.
personnel meeting.
Yeah, and Mr. Walker looked into that a bit and discovered that an interim clerk position would be pretty expensive unless perhaps we went through MML and used a temporary retired one, but that's still kind of a big expense as well.
Well, so that was Plant Moran. So Plant Moran has a list of retired clerks and treasurers and finance directors that they said they could supply us with a list if we were to look at the interim. But really, I think the first course of business would be to have a discussion with Ms. Bigger to see what her availability is
Right.
after December. I mean, it really wouldn't, if she is available, in my mind, it really wouldn't make sense to bring an interim in who has to learn the whole system
Right.
only for a couple of months and then leave, where if Ms. Bigger can extend, then you'd have that continuity of service, and then you can hire your person from there. So if I'm hearing you right, I'll go ahead and put this item on the September agenda for a decision on process, for the hiring process for the clerk treasurer. You all can think about it a little in between now and then,
Yeah.
have your discussion, and then decide process at that meeting. And really, Mr. Mueller and I have discussed this a little bit. You will have seen the process already from the manager search, and so you can replicate a lot of that with the clerk treasurer search. The pool will just be smaller because that clerk's treasurer position is a specialized position, particularly since it's a dual position. And so you will have a smaller pool. So it'll be important to have a good process for that one. But I'll put it on September.
So, as you're thinking about that, did we not put in a budget at some point to split that position?
No, because that position is combined by charter.
Okay.
So in order to split that position, it would require a vote at a regular election. And so that has not been done. Now, that doesn't mean that that position cannot be split in-house, in that the clerk treasurer would have the responsibilities of both the clerk and the treasurer, but appoint a deputy to be his or her main person to do the clerk functions. And right now, Megan functions as the deputy finance director for that function. So it's possible to keep the same without going through a general election
Sure.
to split them,
Okay.
but split them in-house, which would accomplish the same.
Thank you. Do we want to have Mr. Colbeck speak, or continue with the agenda and let him speak at the end?
Bring Mr. Coleman.
Go with him?
I would like them to speak.
That's fine, it's your choice.
We'll invite Mr. Colbeck up.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for having me here. For some of you, there's a lot of new members on the council, and so for some of you, you've seen me come here before to do this, and for those of you who haven't, I'm with Main Street Oakland County, and we assist the Holly DDA in a number of things. But the Holly DDA is a participant in a larger program, which is Main Street America, and we're a coordinating agency. So every year, there's an evaluation they go through, and it's an evaluation of the organization and its strengths. It's not an evaluation of Holly as a community. It's the Holly DDA. Are they run well? Are they taking care of their finances? Do they represent the community? Are they coming with sound plans moving forward? And every year I find the same thing, which is, yes, they're doing a great job. Matter of fact, I was just double checking my records. And this is 14 consecutive years that the Holly DDA is accredited by Main Street America. So, I mean, that's not a small achievement. The things that we see when we come here is, and we've noticed there's been a significant turnout on the Holly DDA board. And with that turnover, what I've seen personally working with them is, you know, the people are genuinely interested in keeping momentum, that they want to learn, that, you know, they enable Nick, the director, to work and give him the power that he needs to go out there and do the daily things that make this so effective. Even with the, you know, the things that Holly has faced in the last couple of years, particularly with the large fire, which is, you know, still looming over the downtown, there's been so much activity that's keeping this village in such a positive light that, you know, it would be, I would loathe to not point that out. You know, the momentum that it continues on the movement of the depot, of, you know, just the ongoing things, even in a little scale, the improvements to the tree canopy and the site furnishings, and all of that. It's just those little things that keep moving forward, that keep this community, you know, particularly the downtown, looking its best, being attractive for businesses, and, you know, in really encouraging people to want to be here, to shop here, to live here. All that being said, again, it's my pleasure to once again hand this over to Nick, which is an accreditation for the year 2024, recognizing the Holly DDA as an accredited community.
Nick has his own personal photographer.
I'm more than happy to stick around and answer any questions if anyone has, or if you just want to say wonderful things about the DDA, you can do that as well.
No, I don't have anything, Mr. Colbeck.
Yep,
Thank you, Tim.
we're all good. All right, thank you, and thank you for giving me the time on the agenda. I'm sorry I was late.
Oh,
That's
you're all
okay.
good.
That's okay.
Thank you.
And talking of agenda, I do want to come back, even though we have had our vote, we did not make public comment available on our first item under new business, and I would like to make that available at this time if necessary. If there's anyone for public comment on our first agenda item. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 2, consideration of the approval of council action request to hire SME and Rowe Professional Services to prepare construction documents for the Mill Pond Dam. Mr. Clausen.
Good evening, council. This dates back to April of 2021. We did some work on the earthen part of the Mill Pond Dam across the street from Waterworks Park. When we did that, the contractor recommended putting some clay on the earthen side and along the top. Unbeknownst to us, and at the time, we did not think we needed a permit for this. Eagle came out to do part of one of their inspections, noticed that we had done more work, got a hold of our engineers, went back and forth. The state switched some engineers. So fast forward about 3 years, and they gave us a violation, and they want to do they want the village to perform testing to make sure, because everybody's aware of what happened up in Sanford. That sort of is the Flint of dams, so it's created all these new regulations and people double checking everything. So Rowe, years ago the village used SME, they had some reports, but that information needs to be updated. They need to test to make sure that the dam isn't becoming saturated with clay, and the clay is keeping that saturation in, and it's going to fail. So we recommend that they do this, and then they'll also give us some plans for future work that is needed on the dam.
Very good.
So has Eagle already come out and they've looked, and that's what started the ball rolling?
Yes. Yep.
And so at this point, this is kind of simple process of getting this
Yes,
documented and then approved?
once we do the engineering, and then I'll have to come back and with a plan and cost for that, and some options of what can be done with the dam for long-term and short-term repairs.
Scary.
And it puts us in compliance?
This will, yeah.
Question.
Sure.
What is this 28,500 that staff is recommending?
That's due.
Just for the construction documents itself?
Yeah, well, they're going to do some topographical surveys and some soil borings to see if there is any saturation in the earthen dam currently, and if there is, what will be needed to fix that, and then what is needed to put us back in compliance with Eagle in terms of the work that was done.
Okay, thank you.
Just for clarification, this is not a penalty, this is simply the cost. If we-
Right, yeah, there's
Okay.
no fines here from Eagle, yes.
Is there any way that we can go back to the contractor if it is found that we have to fix or repair something?
Not after 4 years, or roughly 3.5 years that, they made the recommendation, we accepted that, we did the work. So, like I said, unbeknownst, and at that time, it was just ending COVID, so there wasn't a lot of in-person interaction. A lot of things were done over emails and phone calls. And of course, Eagle claims that they told us the right information, but that's another subject.
What's the will of council?
I would like to make a motion to approve the action request to hire SME and Road Professional Services to prepare construction documents for the Mill Pond Dam for a sum not to exceed $28,500.
Support.
Motion and support. Any other discussion from council? Public comment opportunity. And no signs there. We will take a roll call vote, please.
Tyre,
Yes.
Bergen,
Yes.
Musgrave,
Yes.
Brandon,
Yes.
Kinnaman.
Yes,
Thank you, council, and I'll have more information later on.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 3, consideration of the approval of council action request to accept the use of the DDA grant to plant trees in Ganshaw Park.
Let's see.
Yes, so what I'm presenting is what our design committee is wanting to accomplish with the grant money that is available through the DDA, the 50,000, not the 50 million, if we remember it. And the plan that they given to move forward with the grant, to move that grant to completion, and that I presented to the Parks Commission, and they accepted, so poor Amber has to hear this again. But our goal with this design was really to bring to life the beautiful view that this park has to offer in combination of the trees, the gazebo, the other amenities that it has, but mostly the view of the lake and showing that great view off and making a place for even when, as people drive by, they notice it and able to look and see the great view that that park has to offer. Along with the trees, the other updates that we are adding with this grant are newer garbage cans to get rid of the barrels that are in there. 2 new park benches that are like the wrought iron benches that are there currently. We've already had the light poles painted, and we're going to also redo the flower bed around the gazebo, give it some better soil, just so the plants there are more healthy. And also redo the sign so that it's kind of like a gatefold sign so you can see it as you drive by, and add, extend the flower bed underneath that, and also add some more of the bushes to the area that's in front of the electrical box that's right in front of the park to hide that from view as well a little bit better. And then, of course, the trees. And so the plan with the trees is continue to design that the memorial trees that are currently there at the park, how they kind of set the example of being in a group of trees. And we're going to add 2 more areas of trees in that inside part of the park to then we'll have 3 areas of trees where people will be able to, sit under, picnic at, take in that view of the lake and just enjoy the park in those areas. And those are the ones that are pictured, and the ones that were in the packet labeled Inside Park South and North. And along with that, we're going to continue the tree line of the downtown from the south of the park, end of the park, to the very north end of the park, in between the road and the sidewalk. I'm kind of getting to, as close to the sidewalk as we can with it, safety and, not interfering with the sidewalk. And those are the ones that are pictured in there that say looking north and south, that show it from, the pictures from the other side of the road where you can see the tree line. And it's for a total of about 18 to 21 trees being put back into the park, depending on how much we can actually get within that road, in that road front, because we're not completely sure until we get in there for sure to find out. They're going to be a combination of century maples, a variety of columnar maples, and some kind of a white flowering tree that is not a pear tree, because the parks requested us not to have that. So, what I have.
Any
What
questions?
did the parks recommend?
Flowering pears are considered an invasive
Yeah.
species, so we wanted them to go more off of what the recommendations from the DNR, and that was really the only kind of feedback that we've had.
Yep.
So in the picture, Nick, you've got them rotating between the maples.
Yes.
What are
Yeah.
the?
So there's kind of like different colors going
Yeah,
throughout
so
the
you're
whole
gonna
park.
break it all up.
Yes.
I don't see anything about pines or spruce.
Yeah, there are some in there already, but.
Okay, I was just wondering
yeah.
if that was something that was being added.
Oh,
or-
yeah, no, not with that part anyways.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're
Right.
making it basically to where the trees that are closer to the road are a shorter tree, so we're not getting into the issues of growing into the wires again.
Oh, good.
And yes, a little slower, and then also that we can kind of keep them trimmed up too, so you can kind of see through it as well, so.
So what about the stuff growing in the front of the water and, between the water and the fence?
So it is part of our plans going forward. We've had that on our plan as well. Right now, we're working with SISMA, who was here, I think, last month and talked with you, and getting some plans to them as well to do that at some point. Yep.
I believe, once we got a turn, but they did tell us that they were approved to basically 10 feet beyond that little wooden fence, that they're allowed to kind of cut that down, but then SISMA will have to come in to see about the rest of, the cattails and stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, we can basically mow it right now if we wanted to, but if we wanted to do anything else, then there's a little more process to do that.
Sure.
Is the DNR involved in this at all?
Not with that part, we have SISMA that's involved, and then,
Does Eagle get involved because of the waterway?
Eagle, yeah. I couldn't think of
Sure.
the Eagle.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
No. Looking
How
forward to
about
seeing them.
questions from the public? You guys are too tough of a crowd today. Glad I'm not a stand-up comedian, because it'd be a tough night. How about the will of council here?
I would like to make the motion that council accept the use of the DDA grants for replanting the trees in Ganshaw Park and for other upgrades as well.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any other discussion before we vote? Roll call, please.
Kyer?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Musgrave? Yes. Brandon?
Yes.
Kinnaman?
Yes. Motion carries. Move on to reports. Mr. Walker.
So my written report is attached for council's review, and really what I attempted to do was answer the questions that Pro Tem Brandon asked regarding the Ganshaw Tree Project at the beginning. So I hope that I accomplished that for council. In addition to that, I'd like to thank Megan for pinch hitting for Ms. Bigger tonight. Certainly appreciate that she volunteered to do that, so that's greatly appreciated. And just a little status of what I can give on Ms. Bigger. She is currently conducting home office hours, as I previously discussed with you, not missing a lick and keeping right up. And so we will keep you advised on the progress. As far as the engagement of the MML, if council is comfortable, and you can just let me know by consensus, with a Saturday meeting, since it's going to be a 2-hour meeting, I can hammer out a date sometime mid-September, I think is what Mr. Mueller and I talked about, and I'll work on that. If you'd rather me work on 2 hours during the middle of the week, we can do that. But as in budget, I always think that Saturday gets it done uninterrupted in the morning. Okay, and that's all I have.
I know I'm not available the 14th.
Okay.
Guess we move on to, we don't have an attorney today. Megan, do you want to do a clerk's report? You're not pinch hitting that much, right?
That's the best.
Boards and commissions, we'll start with Ms. Kyer.
Parks met last week. I think most of really what we went over for the DDA, we did the parks. We also talked about things for budgeting. That's basically it. We'll meet again on the 4th of September.
Any personal anything? Okay. Good. Sure. Ms. Brandon?
Thank you, Mr. Kinnaman, and thank you for running the meeting today. And I apologize to everyone for being late. I was at a special meeting for the library board, and I was absolutely needed. We had the bare minimum of a quorum. So, in regards to Sister Cityhood International, with our little Sister City committee, they have gone back to being unresponsive. No fault of the committee. They've been very diligent, trying to move forward. That's all I have to report about them at this time. And thank you, Mr. Walker, for those answers. I think that those answers in regards to Ganshaw resolve a lot of the issues that were presented. Thank you.
HDC has not met, and I just had one question. Mr. Walker, the old fire department, the food truck, is that a business going there, or?
At the old fire department, so it's a catering food truck business. They're not doing any business out of the building itself, other than maintaining the trucks and some storage, is my understanding.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Ms. Musgrave?
I have nothing to report on the committees. However, I do have an issue. This has to do with the residents that has floral on their existing fence coming out of the street right on the side of Dryer's Funeral Home to Oakland. You can't see the people that are turning right onto that street. You have to literally pull out into traffic, so therefore they need to cut all that foliage off their fence so it doesn't cause an accident there.
We will have code enforcement take a look at that.
Better yet, I will.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Kinnaman, do you mind if I say one more thing?
Yes. When Ms. Carr?
I'm finished.
You're
Oh, I'm
finished?
sorry, I
Okay.
thought you were. Okay.
Yep.
I'd like to give my deepest condolences to the Villarreal family. They are very active at the American Legion and the VFW. Sandy lost her son, Brian, over this last weekend, and just a big, heartfelt, deep condolences to their family at this time. Thank you.
You're welcome. Trying to remember what I'm on. None of my stuff is,
Better ask yourself what you're not.
yeah, none of my stuff met this last month. I do know that Planning Commission is expected to meet next week, and so that is on the agenda. I do have one question, because this is probably the number 2 thing that keeps showing up on social media is Broad Street and the road work that was done there. And I know what we approved, somehow it doesn't seem to be that great of a job. What can we look at about something different for that? Is it possible to put that out for bid again, to have it actually fixed? I know when we put down the tar and chip, that could buy us a couple of years on that. I know, because I've seen tar and chip roads done, and they don't end up yet that rough. And so if there's just something that can be done about that one.
You hit it on the head. It was a mandate for a road that was in rough shape.
Right.
Chip seal is a resurfacing of the road. So the chip seal, we get a double chip seal and a story coat on there. The issue is the county at the same time did a presentation overlay, and from the edge of the village limits down to Norfolk Road or South Island Road. And so there's a big difference in those two things, and that's what people are seeing, is the preservation overlay is actual hot asphalt with a 1 to 2 inch overlay.
Right.
We did just a chip seal, which seals all the cracks, keeps pushing out, keeps the road from deteriorating further.
Right.
Walked it twice with the contractor, he came out, did some repairs to it. It is not what I expected to happen.
Yeah.
My experience using chip seal, there has been a lot of result. The other thing is, we can do a mill, and like we did on Conchell and Partner and on Bush a couple of years ago, that uses hot asphalt. We do a smooth surface with that, but once again, that is a Band-Aid for infrastructure that needs to be placed underneath. To do a complete rebuild, we talk curbs, gutters, stormwater, sewer.
Right.
It's a substantial difference. So it's the old adage, you do what you pay for, and it's unfortunate that that road didn't come out as expected. That's what I see in other communities where they have done chip seal. Jensen County uses a lot, but they also start out and put a thin layer of what they call micro asphalt down, then they use the chip seal. So that gives you that extra layer and smooths out some of the bumps. We just went over the existing road with the chip seal. So it still took the contour of the existing road, but sealed all the cracks to keep the moisture out and keep the road from deteriorating.
So probably, the other thing it did too was it filled in the potholes that were in the road, right? So, I mean, it's rough, there's no question, it's not what we wanted, but there are no potholes, nobody's gonna lose a tire over it. I see in the last day or so, the contractor came through and repainted the center lines on there, which was some of the social media talk. And I know the contractor is going to return and do the crosswalks, and we'll get those back. And the real fix for it, like Brian said, is to do it at the time when we do the infrastructure, and then you do the infrastructure underneath, because those water mains are probably 50 years old. And then do the road. But remember, the cost when we did North Saginaw for 7/10 of a mile was about $2 million.
Right.
And that's probably a comparable length of roadway. So I would say that's what we're probably looking at, is we do have that on the radar. We know that that's one of the main roads coming into the village, needs to be at the top of the list when we hit that infrastructure and road repair period, which Brian and I are meeting with Road next week to talk about laying out a roadmap for council for those infrastructure improvements and a timetable to attach to that, which will then, you'll be able to provide more information to the public about, yes, we are aware, this is the plan, and this is the time frame that it's going to occur.
We could build that into the CIP plan that we are working on in Planning Commission then, probably.
Yes, so I have a meeting tomorrow along with Jeremy Watson with Alex, who is with us tonight, about the CIP to finalize the presentation at this point for the Planning Commission. But you're right, once Roe completes that, and our target is to have that completed sometime around the first of the year, because I'd like to have that done before I leave office, so that council will have that, and then you could add that to the CIP then.
Good. Thank you. Any last comments? Then I think we will adjourn. We're done.